Hello and welcome to Positively United. I don't know about you, but I'm still finding it quite difficult to calm down after yesterday's fantastic win at the Emirates. I've watched it over and over and over again since last night. Those goals get, if anything, even better every time you watch them. Amazing, amazing, amazing goals from Dorgu and Cunha, and Mbuemo's first goal was taken with such, style and just focus. Incredible, so cool. What an amazing win. And so it's been really, really, it's been really, really easy to be positive today, even in light of some of the negativity that has surfaced again about Carrick's position. Now, just to put my own position absolutely clear, I don't think anybody should be given the nobody should be appointed the Manchester United head coach for next season until this season is over. Manchester United have been very, very, very careful about the language they've used over Carrick's appointment. They've never described it as interim. I think that's very sensible. And it really would be, I think, a mistake to do any kind of announcement before the end of the season. And the reason I say that is that even if Carrick was offered the role he's already got, if he was made permanent, although he's not interim, I think it would be a mistake, and I think it'd be a mistake because I think it would bring back far too many memories of what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The fact that Ed Woodward, at the time, the chief executive of United at the time, said that United wouldn't be making any hasty decisions and wouldn't make a decision until the season had come to an end, and then gave Ole a contract in March, I think was, in retrospect, a quite bad way for Ole's permanent term as manager to start. Because it allowed the negativity to be there almost from day one. The YouTube influencers, for example, who never rated Solskjaer, never wanted Solskjaer, who referred to Solskjaer as a PE teacher, for example. They had it from day one. They had the criticism that the club had acted emotionally and had jumped the gun. And so when a few results started to go badly towards the end of the season, you could see that straight away they were there, eager to paint everything in the worst possible picture. It wasn't a decision that helped Solskjaer, ultimately. Ultimately, it harmed him. And I think ultimately a hasty decision would harm Carrick. If Carrick is to get the job, he should get the job at the end of a season and after a process has been gone through. Now, what exactly that process should be, I'm kind of like quite relaxed and cool, because a lot of people said he should not be given the job unless there's been an interview of other candidates. Well, why interview other candidates if, say, for example, Michael Carrick is the obvious person for the job and he'd get the job anyway in spite of interviews? I don't know about you. It's happened to me. Have you ever been in an interview situation where you know full well you're not going to get the job? That someone else who's being interviewed is going to get it because that was the decision always? Yeah, let's not waste people's time. But I just want to make it absolutely clear. Carrick has to prove he's the best man for the job. And that's not done in 2 games. That is done between now and the end of the season. And I think I've definitely mentioned in a previous video, to me, there are 3 switches that need to be switched on for Carrick to be offered the job. 1, European qualification. And I don't mean Champions League qualification. If it is Champions League, great. But to me, European qualification is fine enough. Because at the beginning of the season, that's what we would have been happy with from Amorim. And I don't believe that Carrick should be held at a higher standard. Secondly, the style of football being played to achieve that European place needs to be identifiably Manchester United. Now, that's something that Carrick has absolutely excelled at in his first 2 games. You can't deny that. The last 2 games have been the most enjoyable games Manchester United have played in the Premiership for me in years. Absolutely years. Football that's been played, the attitude that's been shown, pure United. So he's well on track for that. And the third switch that has to be switched on, in my opinion, for him to get the job permanently, despite he's not an interim, is that the coaching staff that he has around him needs to be in place at the beginning of next season. No departures. Because I don't know at the moment we can tell precisely why it's working so well. And I wouldn't want to alter the recipe. It's working, why change it? So there you go. And that can't be done until the end of the season, and shouldn't be done until the end of the season. So I'm absolutely in agreement with the fact that there should be no impulse decision about Carrick. Everyone, we need to wait until the end of the season for any decision to be made, whether it's Carrick or someone else. And by the way, if it all collapses on Carrick, no European qualification, terrible football, he won't get the job, quite rightly so. And then we can talk about someone else. If only some of our ex-players had such a similar level-headed view of looking at this situation. So let me show you X. So this is, I'm not going to show you a clips from Sky. I'll get a content block. So let's have a look at Nathan Salt's write-up of what Roy Keane said yesterday. I think if United won every single game between now and the end of the season, I still wouldn't give Carrick the job. You want a manager you can believe can win a title. And we are all going to sit here and say Michael Carrick is going to win the league title? ? Just listen to that. If Michael Carrick wins every single game between now and the end of the season, which, by the way that Arsenal and City and Aston Villa are playing at the moment, would probably make us Premiership champions, you'd just let him go. Irrespective of any of the results, irrespective of the quality of football, you'd let him go. Because this seemingly is what Keane is saying. You look at Carrick and you can't see a man who could win the Premiership. But he will have won by that stage 19 games on the trot. But you don't think he could win the Premiership. This is nothing to do with Michael Carrick's managerial or coaching qualities. We all know that Roy Keane is a sad and bitter man. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say this. He is truly a legend of the club. One of the finest players that's ever played for Manchester United. But more often than not, and increasingly so, I think recently, he comes across as, frankly, a bit of a crackpot. Unable to let his emotion lie in the background and apply logic to a situation. Because there's no logic whatsoever in saying that Michael Carrick shouldn't be even considered for the job if he performs brilliantly between now and the end of the season. And by the way, the straw man argument, the exaggerated barrier to entry here, even if he doesn't win all of his games, he can't be manager. So if he loses like 2 or 3 games, that definitely makes him not good enough to be manager. It's a preposterous argument by Keane, and it's one we should completely dismiss. I think a little bit harder to dismiss, and I'm actually much more disappointed about it because I kind of expect nonsense from Keane. I don't really expect nonsense from Gary Neville. I know Gary Neville's not everyone's flavour of the month at the moment. And he has said some pretty daft stuff over the last several months, including stuff that's nothing to do with football, but to do with politics. So, Gary's got a mouth, hasn't he? And he uses it. But this is what he said yesterday. He said that Michael Carrick should step down as Manchester United head coach at the end of the season, come what may. And his quote was, "Manchester United have acted emotionally a number of times in the last 12 years. I honestly could not be happier with the last 2 weeks. The familiarity in what I'm watching feels like I'm watching my team play again. They played properly with intensity. I think it's right that Carrick keeps the job until the end of the season and then hands the baton over to a Tuchel or an Ancelotti, someone of that world-class ilk. Like Jose Mourinho. Like Van Gaal. We've been there before. I thought we were meant to be learning from our lessons. Learning lessons from our past. Not ignoring them. Now, I would be absolutely delighted with Tuchel or Ancelotti as United manager. Actually, less so Ancelotti, more so Tuchel, because I think Tuchel's got much more capacity to be a much longer term manager or head coach. But if Michael Carrick proves himself between now and the end of the season in the 3 ways that I have outlined, then Tuchel or Ancelotti would be a downgrade on Michael Carrick by the end of the season. Seriously. Because if Michael Carrick proves that he can elevate United into a European spot this season, and he proves he can play the Manchester United way, and he can prove that he's got an excellent team around him, any decision other than keeping him as the permanent coach would be a risk. Because if Tuchel came in, he'd want to get rid of that team. We'd have to start all over again. If Ancelotti came in, he'd do exactly the same thing. We have absolutely no idea if Tuchel or Ancelotti would be better than a Carrick who'd qualified for Europe playing the Manchester United way. For an astute businessman, and there's no denying that Gary Neville is a very astute and very capable and very rich businessman, it's really disappointing because it's illogical. It doesn't make any business sense to say what he's just said. By the way, there are some other fruitcake ideas around about what should happen at the end of the season. One of the most bizarre being, of course, that I've heard is that if Carrick does well, McKenna should be brought in to be the next head coach because Carrick will have proved that the approach works, but McKenna is more experienced. Make of that one what you will. Look, the best thing all of us could do between now and the end of the season is let Michael Carrick do what he does. And he will prove, one way or the other, whether he ought to be in contention to be the permanent head coach at Manchester United. To say now that he should definitely not be considered, as Keane and Neville are saying, is as daft as giving him a contract now. Neither approach makes any sense whatsoever. So just pipe down and let him be the manager, the head coach, because he's doing an excellent job at the moment. Let's see what he does for the next 17 games. And I appreciate there are some big, big tests coming up. Saturday, or is it Sunday, is one of them, the game against Fulham. That'll be a totally, totally different game from the games against City and Arsenal. That's going to be a low block team. That's going to be a team where he's going to have to break through. It's going to be totally different. And those are the teams that Solskjaer ended up having most trouble against. So let's see what happens against Fulham. It'll be a really important test. I think it's actually as important a test in its own way as the games against City and Arsenal. So let's just see what happens. But Gary, Roy, just shut up. I know you're on television and you have to say stuff, but I find it hard to believe that an ex-Liverpool player or an ex-City player or an ex-Arsenal player would find themselves in a position of saying things so inflammatory as you two are doing now. Please stop. Let's get back to talking about something a bit more positive. Transfer news. Not much today because I think it's winding down, because I think all the ridiculous stories have probably already worn themselves out. A confirmed move today, by the way, Harry Amas to Norwich City on loan, confirmed by the club today. The only really sensible story that's going around at the moment is Ndidi, which seems to be the one that's actually stuck and seems to have a lot of, well, not a lot, but the only story for a January signing that has now any credibility at all. The suggestions are that he's been actually offered to United. The sources aren't strong, but it does seem to be the only game in town. And I personally would accept it. It's very interesting that yesterday you didn't get the feeling, did you, that at any stage Carrick was going to take off Casemiro or Mainu? That's because he doesn't have anything on the bench he's got faith in, I think. But Casemiro and Mainu are not going to be able to play 90, 95, 97 minutes every single game, particularly Casemiro, in my opinion. It's not going to happen. So he really could do with being able to bring somebody on. And if that is Ndidi, it might not be the most exciting thing we've ever heard of. It's going to be a loan deal. It's plugging a gap that has to be filled, but I think it would be good to do it. So if Ndidi becomes a signing at 7:07 on February the 2nd, 7 p.m. UK time, I'm happy, because it's doing something that is positive. It is seeing a problem and doing something reasonable about it, even if it's not perfect. All the other deals that are now being mentioned are summer deals. And of course, Cole Palmer, that just won't go away. And it won't go away, I think, because it's true. I've got to the stage, I think I've said this in a couple of previous videos, I genuinely think there's definitely truth in the Cole Palmer story. They're just so... The story that he is homesick has been scoffed at and laughed at. But when you hear stories that apparently he doesn't miss an opportunity to come back home to Wythenshawe and be around his family and his friends, you know what? Never underestimate someone's personal life and what it means to them. Never underestimate the draw of family and friends. For some people, it matters a great deal. It really does. It matters a great deal. It speaks highly of them, actually. And all the stories I've heard is that there's definitely some truth in the fact that he is not happy in London and would prefer to be in the Northwest. And if he comes back to the Northwest, there's only one club he wants to play for, and that's Manchester United. But it obviously would be a summer deal. It would obviously be enormously expensive because of the length of the contract he has at Chelsea. I think has he got 7 years left in his contract? By the way, when are the football authorities going to do something about the signing up players for contracts that frankly are too long? These are young men, very young men sometimes, who are signing up long-term 10-year contracts. I don't think it's right. I really don't. I feel something has to be done about this at some stage or other. It's Chelsea's preferred model, but it smacks to me of trying to recreate a pre-Bosman era, and I don't think that's healthy at all. Players should not be prisoners to a team or a club. They really shouldn't. And I wonder if there needs to be some thought given to the maximum length of a contract, whether that's 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or whatever. I don't know. That's up for discussion. But I don't think a young man should be signing his life away for 7 years or 8 years or 9 years or something like that. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. I really do. Joshua Zirkzee, fresh news today, linking him to Juventus. It's already been linked to Roma. What's your betting on the fact that on the last day of the season, we bring in Ndidi and Zirkzee goes to Juventus or Roma? It seems to me quite likely, because I don't see Zirkzee getting another minute between now and the end of the season, and he probably needs to now leave if he wants to get into the Netherlands squad for the World Cup, which he could do if he was playing regularly. Right, that's all it is for today. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you like what I do on this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. It's great for the algorithm if you like and subscribe. It really, really helps getting these videos in front of more eyeballs. If you want to support the channel in any way, financially, small donations are gratefully received on my Ko-fi account, link in the description. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, please also subscribe to the X channel. Again, link is in the description. But that's all for today. See you tomorrow. And remember, until we see each other again, always try to be positively united.